Hello and welcome to another episode of Chalking, where we talk all things educational. Coming up today, have you ever wondered how they figure out how many kids are allowed or should be in a classroom? And how do they know when a school is full? Well, Chris Klopper from the South African Teachers Union is going to be telling us all about that. Let's start. Chris Klopper, CEO of the South African Teachers Union. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the channel. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, and welcome to the viewers as well.
Chris, this is the first time that we get a chance to talk to you. So perhaps if you could just start by telling us a little bit about the South African Teachers Union. What is it that you do, and what are the issues that you face most of the time?
Okay. The South African Teachers Union, we have about 42,000 members, distributed over the length and breadth of South Africa. We render service in about 4,400 schools. A large portion of our membership also comprises, teachers in training, and for that we are extremely grateful. And then we represent members, from the ECD sector right up until even university lecturers. So we have a whole spread of, let's say, educationists in the education system. We have realized a long time ago, that to be able to survive as a trade union in the modern society, you cannot just concentrate on the traditional union services to members, and that is that you participate in collective bargaining. If that doesn't bear fruit, then you embark on strike action, and then you do, for example, the other issue is the question of dispute resolution, like arbitrations and disciplinary hearings. What we focus on is we attempt to give a service to the education community over a wide spread of services. For example, we have a professional development service, and in the process, we train about anything between 25 and 30,000 teachers per annum. And what we do is we try to get them up to a level that is much higher than the average level of educators. We also have, various publications that we provide to our members. We have an online service in the form of a call center and a service center. And in the process, we also provide a service that is similar to the old Kelly Temp service, and that is we also act as an employment agency for educators. And we have a formal facility on our website in that regard. So at the long and the short of it is that you cannot survive in the modern society by just trying to be a trade union as in the olden days. You have to be much more sophisticated, and you have to almost take cognizance of what the needs and the wants are of not only your members, but also of the parents and the learners outside. And we think that we succeed quite well in that.
All right, so, sorry. So a whole suite of things that you engage in on behalf of your members, and not just, as you say, collective bargaining. One issue that's come up is one that's seen you going to court. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, let's say at the current moment there are two main issues in education, and the first one is, and we can speak about that a bit later as well, is the curriculum backlogs, that emanated from COVID-19. In the process, learners lost almost a full school year. You will remember that in 2020, from around about March until the end of August, there were some grades that never attended schools. And then after that, in 2021, they attended school on the 50-50 principle, one day at the school, one day at home. And in the process, they lost about anything between 150 and 200 school days. And if you bear in mind, that the normal school year comprises 200 school days, you can actually, think for yourself the level of work that has been lost and the curriculum backlogs that you're looking at in the process. The other issues that we've taken, let's say, exception to is the fact that despite our best efforts to determine school capacity, because it is an annual debate, if you speak to school principals and school governing bodies, is when is the school regarded as full? And when are you looking at an overcrowded school? And we all know that when we've seen those pictures on the television, that you see 50, 60 kids in a classroom, and in the process, nothing actually takes place in the form of education. It's almost, you're just looking after kids and preventing them from roaming in the streets. So we've taken exception to that particular matter, and we intend, to take this matter further, and if need be, to litigate on the matter, and that is to determine what the allocated square meters per learner can be regarded as educationally justifiable. Currently, the prescriptions and the regulations say that a learner is entitled to 1 square meter in a class, and no provision is made for aisles. There's no provision made for the fact that they have to place their school teachers, their school cases. There's no provision for the fact that a learner has to sit on a chair at a desk. And we believe that 1 square meter is just not sufficient. And in the process, if you just look at it and you just place square meters next to each other, you can look at anything between 40 and 50 learners in the class. And we believe that is not educationally accountable. The minister had, she prescribed the regulations in 2013 that said that what you do is when you come to a school, you add the number of classrooms, you calculate them, and then you multiply it by 40, and that is the capacity of a particular school. And we believe that is not justifiable. You have to look at other factors as well, and that is why we intend, to take the minister to task on this particular matter.
I suppose other issues come up. If you've got a big classroom, in theory, that means you've got more square meters, but that means a teacher then ends up with a lot more students than they can teach.
Well, the reality is, that on a personal level, if you look at the, let's say at your breadth of control, and if you use that particular term, you can't just expect a teacher in a primary school or in a difficult subject like mathematics to just teach and stand in front of a classroom like a lecturer and just try to convey the subject knowledge. You have to get to kids, you have to give them personal and individual attention and help those kids who really require it. And for that, you need space. For that, you need, you can't go beyond a critical number of learners in a class. And the moment that you go beyond 35, I think it becomes extremely difficult, to give individual attention, to give quality teaching to those learners. And as we all know, not all learners are at the same level. You have to give that particular individual attention. And we believe that you cannot just get to the point where you can just bus children to schools, put them in schools, and then expect, quality education to take place. If you follow that particular approach, it also takes away the responsibility from the politicians to build schools in those geographical areas where it is required. Let me give you an example. Every year, anything between 50 and 30,000 learners can't be placed in schools in Gauteng. The education department knows it at this stage, but they haven't built schools in those areas where it is required. And we believe that they are not complying with their fiduciary duty as an MEC for education, not only in Gauteng, but in other provinces as well, particularly in the Western Cape. And you can't just rely on current schools, to take up the slack and to actually accept those learners, because as I indicated, a school reaches a critical point where it is regarded as full, and you can't go beyond that particular point. We understand the argument that that children have a right to access to education. But by just cramming kids into a school, you're leading to overcrowding, and you're not actually, assisting them with quality education. And as we all know, that our education system is not in the best state at the current moment. And we believe that it has to be addressed. And let's start with it in providing children with proper schools, giving them adequate, let's say, space in the classroom, giving teachers the ability to be able to give individual attention to learners. And that is what we're attempting to do with this particular case. You can't just cram children in the school.
All right, let's see how that one plays out. Perhaps we'll have you back on the program once that's concluded. Maybe we can end this particular chat going back to what you spoke about when you brought up curriculum backlog. I wonder, what could the solution be? Could we use technology perhaps? Before we get into it, a quick message from the sponsor of this episode. With over 6,000 videos covering all grades and most subjects, Dork is the most comprehensive online platform for extra lessons, exam revision, and homework assistance. For only 149 Rand a month, you get access to all grades and subjects, and also the ability to create up to 4 profiles under one subscription. They've got your whole family covered. Think Netflix, but for education. So sign up to Dork, click the link in the description below, and use the promo code CHALKING to get 20% off your first month. Let's get back into it.
Well, let's be honest about it. You know that we have 24,000 schools in South Africa, public schools, a little over 24,000. Many of them are situated in deep rural areas. They don't have access to Wi-Fi facilities. They don't have access to electricity, for example. They don't have access to IT equipment. So yes, for some schools, the IT option is a possible solution. But we believe, and this is, we are absolutely convinced about it, that if you want to teach quality education for 95% of the learners at school, whether they be in poor communities or in, let's say, more affluent communities, individual attention at the personal level is the best method of teaching children, especially younger children. And as I intimated, you know, that during the last 2 years, 20 and 2021, only 2% of the learners lost less than 140 school days, only 2%. If you look at the quality of the performance of learners in grade 9, specifically mathematics, 81% of the learners can't pass mathematics. And we believe, and this is, we've had numerous discussions with the Department of Education to say that in all probability, what we will have to do is we will have to revert to, again, teaching children how to read. Because let's say, for example, children in grade 3, a child in grade 3 who lost 200 school days when he or she was in grade 1 and 2 can't read fluently at this stage. So reading is a huge problem. If you can't read, you can't do mathematics. And those backlogs build up as children progress through the system. So that is why when you get to university level, and I've spoken to many university departments responsible, you know, for providing bridging classes to students in the first years, what they actually do is they give those students reading lessons and comprehension lessons on how to interpret, you know, certain reading pieces provided to them. So reading is a huge problem throughout the system. The question of writing of sentences, writing of essays, it doesn't take place, you know, insufficient frequency anymore. And then, of course, mathematics is a huge problem. If you test learners now in grade 3, and that is what they did late last year, you will find in the grade 3 that 50% of the learners can't pass mathematics. And there's a direct correlation between nations that are, let's say, able to do quality mathematics and the success of a particular community, because that is where your accountants, your actuaries, your and let's say your engineers come from. And it's a long-term problem that we need to solve. And if we don't do it over the long term, we're going to sit with even higher unemployment rates, because our manufacturing sectors are not going to be able to develop sufficiently.
Chris, there's so much for us to talk about. So we're going to have you back on the program, on the channel, to talk about some of these issues specifically. But great talking to you for the first time, and I look forward to many, many more conversations with you.
To your viewers as well, and God bless.
I hope you found that conversation with Chris Klopper fascinating, and we hope to have more conversations with different voices in the education space in coming episodes. Don't forget, though, to like, subscribe, and hit that bell as a notification so that you can find us again real soon, and also why don't you write a comment just below to give us an idea of what you want to see more of and the kind of questions you want to get answers for. Till the next time, bye.